created my own little algorithms to do one thing or another, like disease states, a mortality algorithm. And
I think you will have a whole levels of robotics, the humanoid robots or non-humanoid robots, whatever the case is.
But the one that I really gravitated towards was Alteryx. Low code, no code, business intelligence stuff, data science, machine learning, things like that.
Audio, or text, and then there's big metaverse buzz. Everybody knows the metaverse.
Another week of AI.
All right. Hyped now. Ay.
Could you guys hear that?
Yeah, no, say it again.
Your mic was live. You had a hot mic.
Oh, yeah. A little bit of verbal coffee late in the day, kind of wake you up a little bit.
Yeah. Jolt.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. So great to be here. Yeah, really looking forward to this conversation. That was the first time I've, I think, heard the intro because I've seen it before, with Asif and on the LinkedIn account and everything. But the adds the flavor to it, Lucky.
Any language I think I've came across or asked people about, they have a variation of I somewhere. Mm-hmm. In my language that I was born into, I means I screwed up, right? Mm-hmm. When Lucky does it, it's more like I am just damn near drunk and happy, right?
I'm celebrating something.
Right. Celebrate life. Celebrating life.
And when Mosako does it, you better run.
It's like I'm on the top of a mountain and I'm giving a call, right?
Yeah, like, I'm coming for you.
There you go.
Oh, man. So, Jason, welcome. This is how we start the show, and we end the show almost on the same note. Either, after 2 hours of talking about AI, do we feel positive? Do we feel drained by the AI or overburdened by the responsibility of AI? So, we capture our emotions through AI. So, welcome to our podcast. Welcome to our conversations. We do this podcast framed based on people's learning of AI. As in, if you're learning AI, are you looking to find a job in AI? Are you learning about AI so you can have a new business, new startup? Or are you learning AI just to keep your kids safe, right? So we have this conversation a lot. So military veterans is one of the first target because we have military background. So we asked that when the military veterans are listening, they start considering AI as part of their career, not necessarily AI as a job, but to use AI in their career path. So today's discussion is about military veterans and project management, right? Project managers, folks that are in military, they love to become project manager once they leave the organization because they want to take that leadership role and they want to be able to lead a team and deliver on a project. So who's better than to talk about these sort of topics than Jason, right? To shine some lights into how are we using AI to do project management, right? So let's jump into it. But first, Jason, give us a rundown of your background. If you do a poor job of it, or you're trying to cover something up to be humble, I'm going to call you out and I'm going to do it for you.
I appreciate that, Asif. Yeah. So it's been a crazy journey, but just to maybe keep it a little bit brief, I've had the opportunity to be in the tech space for over 13, 14 years now at this point. But we were actually talking, before we started the show here, I was actually planning on going into medicine. I come from a very strong medical family. I actually have 9 other siblings, so there's 10 of us, so big family. I grew up in Northwest Ohio, but my dad's a dentist. So I grew up, it's actually, I think, 4th generation dental practice. So I was going to go the family business. I was going to go become a dentist or become a doctor. So I went that route. I got accepted into dental school and medical school. I did biology, chemistry. But this whole time I had this desire to always want to start my business or, do something in technology. And I thought I could do that as a physician. I was going to learn, how to program and actually use some of these these tech platforms and tools in the work that I was doing for serving patients. But I got accepted, and rather than being like excited, I actually felt really depressed. And I was like, what's going on? I need to figure out what to do. So I actually had a mentor I befriended. It was a guest speaker actually coming into our university where I was doing my undergrad program, my bachelor's. And she was a leader, a founder of a nonprofit think tank actually in Washington, D.C. And she's like, what projects are you working on? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, long story short, that conversation turned into a 4-hour conversation. I met her and her husband. We ended up having dinner together. And she said, would you be interested in actually being a researcher for our think tank in DC, still in college and everything. And it opened up this massive opportunity to start to serve nonprofits. And really my role was to what social issues, were they doing research on? How can we take that research and make it into a website, make it interactive? Their board and their marketing team can go and share it around. So I ended up teaching myself some web development skills, website development. And then I'm like, wow, I love coding. I love being able to build something from scratch. So I ended up going through online boot camps, teaching myself how to program. And then I started out working in enterprise companies as a junior software engineer, eventually got to more mid-level. And then thankfully, a lot of the managers at the companies were like, wow, you're this weird kind of combo, Jason. You can talk to people and do the coding. Would you want to be a manager? So I ended up, starting to get into management and lead, these engineering teams. And then eventually I got into, starting my own company. So I've had the really amazing opportunity to work with some crazy thought leaders, really crazy in a good way, like the John Maxwell Company, the Zig Ziglar Company. So for those of you in the military, side of things, huge, motivational leadership, side of things. So I learned so much, having the opportunity to work with them, but also like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, helping to manage his personal brand and ghostwrite some of his content and books. And then, getting more into the SEO space and the blockchain and crypto space. I've helped scale like some of the most successful NFT and crypto projects on like the Flow blockchain. And then, I got into AI actually in 2016, 2017. My role was to work with some of these engineers at Google and Meta, Facebook at the time, to break down some of their amazing research that they were doing. And at the time, it was, generative pre-trained transformers, those GPTs that so many of us know today, with what became ChatGPT as the main kind of thing that most people know about. But I would take a lot of that research and break it down in blog and video content and make it easy to understand. And then eventually it got into testing and being a beta tester for some of these AI tools. And then my company, we were building a lot of Gen AI and some simple kind of traditional AI and machine learning projects as well. And then, I actually ended up connecting with a friend of mine or through a friend of mine at Cisco Systems. He's like, you need to talk to this OnStack company because they're looking for someone to break down AI and teach it internally to their team. Well, I got to meet OnStack. I got to meet, some of their leadership also at Cisco. And they're like, you have a week and a half to create all this content for an 8-hour workshop. Do you want to do it? And I'm like, I'll give it a shot. Ended up becoming really successful, internally with their team. Asif and I actually collaborate on that too. He's seen, some of the content there, but I love teaching people and breaking down, some of these complicated things. And then it turned into, other opportunities to do that for other nonprofit organizations. There's a really awesome healthcare nonprofit that we're working on right now to build like an amazing, AI chatbot for like even mental health applications. Mm-hmm. So I love seeing technology, being used for good. And me personally, that's a big thing, and everything that I want to do is I want to try to use these as tools, even ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, some of those other tools that are available. There's a right way to use them and there's a wrong way to use them, So let's use them the right way and use it to help other people. So how did I do, Asif? Anything I missed out?
Oh no, I think Masako can testify to that. Masako, did you miss anything from going live?
No, you know what? You very thorough, Jason. I'm pleased. Look, you're no
Mhm.
stranger to the camera. That's for sure.
Behind the camera and on the camera, yeah.
Either way, you're no stranger to the camera, and I love that, because for me, that tells me that you're authentic and you believe in
Thank
who
you.
you are and what you're doing, and that's huge in this day and age, in this climate that we live in, right? To really live life on purpose, and in living life on purpose, we give others that are watching us permission to be great on purpose. And I always say, for people that don't have the capacity, that maybe didn't have a mentor, or they weren't raised in a household where they knew that they could become something greater than the space that they were in, that when they see us, we're giving them permission to walk in purpose and to do the thing that they're dreaming about, because we're a perfect example of, when you believe in what you believe in, there are no limits. Do
That's
it.
right.
And so I love that. You're in the right room, Jason.
I love it. Yeah, well, I think what you just said, Masako, really, dials that in, because a lot of people, well, let me ask you guys, how many times does it take for a person to try something new before they don't even try again? It's actually less than one time. So what that means is, when people are looking at trying something new, they actually talk themselves out of trying something mentally before they even go and do it. So, that's one of the things I think is a good learning opportunity here, especially, Asif, to your point, military veterans looking at AI and using it for project management, just start. It's okay to make mistakes. Contrary to maybe some of the other world systems and culturally what they say, like, we learn by doing. And I would argue some of the best AI systems too, they learn by doing, through reinforcement learning. So we need to just, not be afraid to get out there and test what works and what doesn't work. And that happens through iteration, not being afraid to fail forward. So just to add color, Masako, to what you're saying.
Thank you. I agree with you, Jason. I always say, we're speaking to the kids in the room, and if you get it, it's like, no, we're all kids. Like, we have to be able to play and discover and have a curiosity to say, okay, let's see what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
So true.
I mean, you get excited when you first learn how to drive, right? That's how I felt about AI in most of the cases. I was just like, why is this not working the way I need it to work? Why is the expectation that I had is not meeting, right? So it's like really learning how to drive, but for a longer time, right? You never can get it perfect, and there's not enough of these that you can drive and be satisfied with. These days, of course, with ChatGPT, there's way too many options. But as Jason would say, back in 2016, 2017, you knew how amazing machine learning and AI was. It worked if you gave it some time, and you have to give it lots of time. These days, you can make it work a lot faster, but how do you keep it going continuously, persistently? That's a whole nother life cycle discussion, right? And Jason shines a light on it all the time. These days, it's easy to get started, but how do you continue is a far bigger challenge than getting started. So really got to have that your mindset right to continuously engage with this topic. Now, military veterans, right, who got trained actually to stay in that bush for 3 days straight, right? Who got trained to say persistency and consistency is what pays off. You're being alive or dead, right? So military veterans, for obvious reasons, they want to take up on leadership roles. They want to drive teams, and they want to drive the team's ability to say something like AI, we're going to adopt it, we're going to implement it, and we're going to continuously develop it, right? So it requires that mindset and the training. And of course, military veterans are well trained in that. And as a project manager, they do really, really well. And the reason we're having this conversation today is because we want the future project managers or future mil vets. They're going to come outside of the military, and they're going to look for jobs, and they're going to find jobs in this military and the project management space. So as we are, moving forward with this project management discussion, Jason, shine some lights on that, because I think AI is most fascinating use case, in my opinion, when it comes to identifying what are some of the good ways to use the AI.
Yeah, I mean, I always recommend people starting with what did they have right in front of them. And right now, ChatGPT is probably one of the best tools to start with, Asif. So, like, that's one of the things I say is, and even now, with them just launching ChatGPT 5, they have ChatGPT 5 or GPT 5 right on the free plan. So everyone can access it. But I think one of the best ways is to, especially military veterans, is to think about how can I take that structure, which is a really good thing, from their background and going through the military process. Before we started the recording, I was mentioning I have a lot of family members, in the military. When I was looking at going into medicine, I was between Air Force and Navy going to do the officer program. I'm very familiar with just the military world. I have very close family members, in the military as well. My brother is, Army National Guard. So he's getting going to go on a deployment here soon. So very kind of, close to what they're kind of learning. But ChatGPT is a great starting point to, just maybe start with, okay, if I'm going to go into project management or I'm going to go into this role, just ask it basic questions on how can I prepare, for this particular role. That's kind of, discovery, information gathering. These AI tools are a really good starting point for that too. But also, getting into resume creation, interview preparation. There's been times too, personally, before I got into more of the work that I was doing, I would actually do the voice side of things in ChatGPT and ask it to role play. Hey, I'm going to be interviewing, for this role. Can you help just guide me, role play with me? You're this person hiring me. This is my role that I'm going to be interviewing for. And it will actually guide you, through that conversation. So that's another really, kind of low-hanging fruit way to use AI. And then one of the other things that has been really, really cool that I've been testing out, even internally, managing my personal life, but also these other like AI projects, that I've done. There's this tool which is free. They have a free plan. It's called DART, DART.ai. It's actually an AI-powered project management tool. So you can use your voice, you can actually prompt it just like ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm going to be writing a book, or I'm going to be, applying to these many jobs for project management, or this is what I need to accomplish. That is an awesome tool that will actually take in your prompt and it will create all those different tasks. It will help manage those different tasks for you. So that's one recently that has been like an amazing tool for me. So, I think the combo between ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude or Google Gemini, any kind of chat AI tool, there's opportunities to leverage that for a role prep, role playing, but also that DART AI. It's designed, to do that project management with AI integrations. Even Notion is another, good tool that has some AI added into it. But it's not like a AI native, project management tool where something like Dart is like that. So, off the top of my head, those are some of the top ways, that I've seen and personally, tried to use some of these AI tools, especially for maybe someone in the project management space, kind of getting into that or transitioning, into that.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Like, project management is just outright one of the best things that organizations can have, right? I would never want to be in an organization that doesn't have a project manager and probably doesn't even do project management in a process.
That's right.
And we might get a lot done.
I was gonna say that what gets measured gets managed, and then you can understand how do we do this better. So thank you, Masako.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
Masako and Lucky, do you guys think or use already anything that's on your project management that you say like, wow, because of AI, I actually enjoy project management? Because after a while, I think it gets like, oh my goodness, here comes another project. Here comes another 6 months of my life.
I think the key when we utilize these platforms, like with the GPTs for planning, program management, project management, the whole key, it's easy to get started, but do you have that follow through?
Yeah.
So if you're actually going through the due diligence to have the GPT write the program out for you, it is up to you to do your due diligence to stay on task,
Yeah.
to confirm that you're on schedule. Because yeah, you could have the plan all you want, but if you don't work the plan, then what is it? It's one more failed project because you didn't do your due diligence behind it. And I just think
Yeah.
with regard to all of the things that each of us have to do in our daily lives, we have to be intentional about what we really want to see through till the end, because we don't need one more thing to be disappointed that we didn't follow through it. So whatever it is that is purposeful for our life, then we need to be intentional about the time that we put into that. And so the GPTs, they assist us in leveraging that time, leveraging our knowledge by the prompts, and then utilizing that time space to really do our due diligence to get our projects up and off the ground.
That's right.
Lucky.
Well, yeah, I've done a lot of project management, but mine's always been technical. I'm a geek, much like you, Jason, and you do things. You're successful because you're driven. I've never really been successful because my project management skills are stellar. I'm not successful for that reason. I'm successful because I'm hard-headed and I love to fail.
So what you're saying is you have grit. You're successful because of your grit.
Yeah, I don't, but I can appreciate a good project manager. I've worked with good project managers, and they make my life easier as an engineer because I can focus on what I need to focus in the noise. Because most people can't, just like you, Jason, you can have multiple hats and you can go in between. I can do that somewhat, but I have to have like a channel flip. It's like, okay, I need to take off this hat, my management hat. Now I got to put on my engineer hat. Oh, I got to take off my engineer hat and I got to put on my networking hat. And it's sometimes for me, the project management stuff is just far reaching because I know what needs to get done, but like I said, I appreciate a good project manager.
Well,
Yeah.
I think, Lucky, though, what you're illustrating there is right on, is start with the end in mind. Because a lot of people, in my experience, I've worked with amazing project managers and really horrible ones. And the thing that actually makes the project managers that are really good stand out is they keep that core mission and that outcome, the goal, at the forefront of everything that they do, because a project management system and even the tools that you integrate has to enable accomplishing that goal. If it's hindering you, that's when you need to take a step back and be like, whoa, this is not working. We need to figure this out. And that even with AI tools, just like ChatGPT and some of the other ones we mentioned, Dart, Masako, going back to what you were saying too, like start with the end in mind. And then also almost think of it like, okay, this AI tool is, I'm talking to a person. Like if I'm talking to them, this is what I need to be done. Think about an AI tool as, you're kind of just talking with this AI as another person. I need to hire them, or, hey, you tell me, like, how can I do this work better? And I found that actually helps create the prompt. It's not this cookie cutter kind of copy and paste with some of these prompts that we see so much today. It's, think of AI as another person that you're just trying to have a conversation with. What's your goal? What's the responsibilities? What's the outcome that I want? And then you could add in, their information. Oh, this is the project I'm working on. It can kind of help you. But if you just do that little basic workflow, you would be amazed, at the results I think that you can accomplish from that. So I think, Lucky, what you're saying.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you guys are hitting on, like Lucky said, I want a project manager in my life. And Jason kind of reminded me of that tweet that Sam Altman sent out saying, in paid subscription, somebody who pays $20 a month to ChatGPT, only 7% to 10% of the subscriber uses the agent feature inside of the chatbot, right?
Yeah.
Inside the chat box. So that kind of reminds me that people are probably not using the schedulers inside of the chatbot or the ChatGPT. So one of the things that I do is, I need a project manager. I need 5 or 6 of them actually, because I have a reminder on my ChatGPT continuously telling me, Asif, about weeks ago, you said you're going to do something. What's your status? And it was part of the conversation I had 7 days ago with Chat GPT saying, set a reminder, right? And of course, this goes with the line of like, what else can ChatGPT do that we're not taking advantage of, right? The other one I've been doing recently, remember, Jason, we talked about keep call centers in America. I set up a daily search on that topic.
Yeah.
Any movement on that bill, I want to hear about it. And every 8 o'clock in the morning, ChatGPT tells me, no update today, that's project manager skills that we should outsource. We definitely have to outsource. Now we have a platform where we can outsource it too, right? Sure. And I don't know if it comes with a free one, but for $20 a month, I'm getting lots of work done because of ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, I think the thing is, like with all programs that we subscribe to, if we're not being intentional with that time and space, then it's just there and we're not utilizing it. Yeah. And so talking about the military community, when you're leaving the military and you want to transition and have a career and think about going into project management, to begin utilizing your skill set now while you're still enlisted, to upskill yourself in the AI space. So it's a natural transition. We see all of the organizations that, they list, transitioning out of the military spouses, you're looking for a job. At this point, we need to be on installations, perhaps maybe having OnStack or organizations like OnStack that has the training. You know how we go through the SOPs where we have to take that training, utilize that training space for AI that's within the curriculum that's added on. So when you're going to transition, you're already upskilled in this space. So it's just an easier transition.
That's right.
Well, if you're ever going to transition, you always have to think about what's the one management that ChatGPT is far more effective in than project. I call it knowledge management, right? Yeah. And Jamie's here with us to talk about knowledge management, right? So we have to have the full cycle of conversation here, because once you go into project management world, one of the things that I've learned over however many decades of delivering on projects is that they all become knowledge, and they all become valuable knowledge. And I know, guarantee you that I've done so many projects that I've never looked back and said, how could I have done this better? How could I do this today instead of this many days, or do it differently, or do it, far more effectively? I haven't done it because, of course, time constraint, but knowledge management, that's the institutional knowledge that we have to talk about. So we have an amazing Dr. Jamie Muscoff with us. So Jamie, welcome back to AI podcast.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me back. And thank you for your patience with me. I just became a grandmother, so I am balancing those things.
Congratulations, Jamie.
I'm thrilled with you guys.
Thank you.
So y'all are both grands.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful thing. You get to play
Congratulations.
Now. Play and spoil.
That's right.
Thank you.
No diapers, just play. You can handle the kids now.
Absolutely. And you just remember that other people have a schedule all their own, and it has nothing to do with yours. So you just roll with it. And it's been great. It's been wonderful. Yeah. So thanks for having me. I'm excited. I've been listening to the conversation and, thinking through all the things that you've been saying about project management and how to utilize AI. And, for me personally, I've been dealing with that as the company that I work for has been in transition. How do we better leverage AI tools to do the job of many? And we're trying really hard not to use that language of, do more with less, but instead sort of framing it with, how can we innovate, utilizing the tools that we do have and the capabilities we do have now to, accelerate and to, even improve upon what we've been doing given these interesting times. So it's exciting to hear how you all have been talking about that from a project management perspective. And I certainly, I'm glad that you brought up the knowledge management component, because that really is the thing. You can do a lot with AI, and you can get all kinds of answers and get all kinds of plans, like you're saying, and but what you do with them and where you keep all that information, I don't think a lot of people have figured that part out yet. So
So Jamie, how are y'all, since you mentioned it about utilizing the AI within staffing in your organization, how are you utilizing AI with the employees to do more, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is, identifying what are those tasks that we can automate that don't really, require a lot of creativity, but rather require a tool that helps us set something up, whether it's I need to create a spreadsheet that's got different information in it, variables, templates, using ChatGPT or whatever, we use different internal tools similar to ChatGPT that could help us do that. But automating things that would take a person many, many hours to create, and ChatGPT can create in just a little, in 2 seconds, with a nice prompt, saves us a lot of time. So, in fact, in our company right now, we're going through the process of getting together and kind of showcasing with the other employees, like, this is how we answered the mail for a particular client who liked the work that we created, loved the knowledge that we have, but needs to see it in a different format, right? So rather than spending hours and hours and hours creating something from scratch, feeding our content into our internal AI systems and being able to just generate products on the fly, that's been really helpful. And to be able to generate things the way clients want to see them, I think has been fantastic. But a lot of that has to, you really have to know how to talk to it, right? And I think that's problem number one to overcome is, making sure that our employees even know how to prompt, do prompt engineering, how to ask for the right things. I thought it was funny that you mentioned, or Jason was talking about using ChatGPT, and you, Asif, were talking about how people don't quite know how to use agents yet. But this is nothing new, right? I mean, I would guarantee you that most people in organizations still don't know how to use Word or Excel, to their full capacity, right? And they're still manually tabulating things. Not a new problem, but I think that the speed and the power of the tools that we have, beyond that now with these, with like ChatGPT, just as an example, if you're not really up on top of learning how to use it, it's not, you may not know it, but it's kind of hurting you right at this moment.
Yeah. So, I have a question, Jamie. When it comes to AI and training of the staff, are all of the employees, executives down, being trained in AI?
Yes. So the company that I work for is called Lex Consulting Group. We're a 20-plus-year-old federal consulting firm based in Maryland, but we're remote first, so we're kind of everywhere. And because we're a remote first company, it's really important that we're all in line on, and on the same page with regard to our policies, with regard to our practices when it comes to utilizing these very powerful tools. A lot of our clients are federal, so we definitely, want to make sure that we're adhering to all of the guidelines and rules that we have to follow. So I think the very first thing that we did was create an AI policy, and it's a training video created with AI that helped our employees really understand what tools are available and what their responsibilities are for using them at that basic level. Okay. And then once you complete your AI policy training, and there's a knowledge test, of course, for you to pass it, then you're allowed to request access to the various tools that we have internally. And not everybody needs access to every tool that we have that's AI powered. So you get the tools that you need, and once you have that, there are other training resources that we have available that aren't policy but rather practice. Prompt engineering. And then now we're just moving into the let's train each other, and let's kind of do brown bag sort of style trainings on, hey, how did you,
Okay.
what did you use ChatGPT for last week, or yesterday?
I have a question. Within the climate, has there been any fear-based agendas like, oh, my job's going to be taken away if I don't learn this, I have to learn this? Or has it just been a smooth transition? Like, this is something that we're adopting and adapting. Let's all move forward in it with a smile because this is going to make our better, right? Because you always have those two groups, the one that's like, they're the early adopters, are like, yes, let's go. We're going to upskill ourselves. This is going to, we're going to be able to do things more quickly. And then you have those people who, they're fearful because they feel like they're going to lose their job if they don't understand what capacity is to be had within the AI workspace.
Sure. I don't think there's any fear at all. And I think that has a lot to do with us taking the time to educate ourselves on the data out there regarding AI use, right? I think if you look at, I think that there's this misconception that, you're behind the curve when it comes to AI. Everybody is getting on this and knows how to use it, and the data does not speak to that, right? It indicates that most companies right now, their success rate in rolling out AI, I understand probably around 30% or so. I think it was somewhere around there the last time I checked. We had my colleague at Columbia University, Chris Reeds. I actually brought him into our company to sort of give an overview of what the picture is. And he was brilliant in showing our staff kind of this curve of AI use, right? Not expertise in AI, but like AI use, right? And if you really look at it, there are very few people that could be considered real expert users of AI. Most people are in we're at the point where most people are in the curiosity, okay, I'm willing to try it phase, right? There's still people obviously in the doubting phase, right? In the skepticism phase, but to see that in real time with, data that's currently out there about usage, I think helps ease people's minds because, it shows you that no, you're not behind and there's lots to learn and that there are opportunities there in where the gaps are right now. So how can a company like mine or anyone's sort of leverage that curve of where we are overall in business when it comes to AI use? There's a lot to take advantage of.
So I have a question. Do you leverage more ChatGPT as a tool, or which model do you leverage, for training? Because one is training the user, and the others, in some cases, you have to train the model to accommodate for your business needs. So, what exactly are you guys focusing in on? What models?
Right now, I think we're interestingly using Gemini because a lot of our data, our internal data is, Google at the moment. That, there's going to be a shift, I think, in our own company to start using Copilot. Both of these tools are obviously not as, advanced high level right now as, as the ChatGPT, especially since they came out with 5. But the concern always tends to be like where our information, and this is where the knowledge management thing comes in, right? Like our information is stored in specific places. So in order for AI to be useful to us, we have to be able to be using a tool that will allow us to look at the data that we have in a secure environment and taking advantage of the structure that we currently have. In order for us to leverage other tools, I think we have to really do a deep dive into how our knowledge is structured behind the scenes, and our company has to be better, and every company really needs to be better about how you manage your information, because you could use a tool that's really excellent at kind of digging into your data and producing these incredible products for you. But in order to do that, you've got to be organized on the back end. You can't just present it with a mess, right? So, and that, I think that's a misconception as well. People think like, oh, it's just you plug it into your data that you have, and then suddenly it can read everything. It's like magic. It can, but then it's going to give you funky responses, if you tell it more specifically where to look for something, you're obviously going to get a better quality response. So I've been using for work, we've been using those tools at Columbia, and just as part of my academic work, we've been using Perplexity which I really love for research purposes because, unlike, well, now I think ChatGPT is better, but before ChatGPT got better at really like giving, including its source data without asking, Perplexity is really good at making sure that it gives you all the sources of information. And for students and academics, I think that's a really great tool.
Yeah, there's a lot of different open source models, like we'll say DeepSeek or Olama or Llama. Have you guys done any type of work with that? Is it just the fact that you're focusing more on your data vectors to be able to focus in on what you have? But being an educator, I would see that you would have it a little bit more open where you can see compare all the different models just so you could see.
Sure. Yeah. So on the education side of my life, yeah, it's a lot better. Right? There's more freedom there, but when you're doing business with the federal government, there are certain parameters you've got to.
Yeah, you got to worry about CMC. You got to worry about a lot of cybersecurity things. So, Jamie, this is what's been buzzing in my head since the last time we spoke. Because in AI space, I have a lot of these like things that I can say. I wish people knew about this part of AI, right? Or they probably will have a better understanding of AI if they knew this piece a little bit more, right? I bet in the knowledge management space, people just look at that word knowledge management and just says, well, it must be something to do with managing the knowledge, right? like what is that few things that you wish everybody would say? I would want everybody to know about this for KM. Do you have anything like that you can share with us?
Oh, so many.
Yeah,
so many things.
We'll pull the plugs as far as we can go.
What people should know about KM. I think that there have been, my colleague Nancy Dixon did a great job of kind of creating this illustration of the eras of knowledge management, and not a Taylor Swift reference, but I think we're in the fourth era now, according to Nancy's sort of timeline on things. And the reason I point that out is because I think a lot of people who hear knowledge management, maybe they've worked in knowledge management in the military context or been introduced to it in military contexts where I was first a knowledge management officer. They think of it still as information management, right? It's still about how do I get documents stored someplace and organized and things like that. But that's not obviously what it's about. And it's advanced, the complexities now are, it's not about just taking information and digitizing it or organizing digitized information. There's so many different layers to knowledge management. And the biggest thing I think is the continual focus on people and behavior and change, right? I mean, you could have the most beautifully organized data stores and, great portal and everything, but people won't use it unless you give them a reason to. And, in order to have that happen and have your tech investment in all these great systems and portals be worthwhile, you also have to invest in the people and change aspect of it. And that takes more effort and more time. It's not simply like, well, you hire somebody and they tell you what's good and you do it. It's a culture change that, that needs to extend over time in your organization. So I think that's the big thing, is knowing that if you do invest in knowledge management in some form, and likely it'll be a system at first, your first take at it, you need to be in it for the long haul, because it's really about people and managing people and their what they need and their expectations and value proposition.
Right. Yeah, institutional knowledge and how to continue to do operations, and then what if there is a succession, and what if there is not a succession that never happened? All of a sudden there's a gap in knowledge, right? It's a untold story because there's nobody there left to tell the story, right? They just completely
So right.
after a while,
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, knowledge management. I think the reason I always look at it from the archived and record management perspective is that we sort of do that because we didn't have any other option, right?
Right.
Digitizing a piece of paper would have costed more. Putting in the record management for the next 7 years until you burn it in a trash pile, it's much easier than to go through it and say, hey, let's figure out how we used to do our SOP and how we do it today, and what are the deltas and what's paying off, right? Can we measure that? So like information management, I always get that wrong, right? I always get that wrong, that this is not information management, this is knowledge management. Knowledge as in like institutional knowledge, this is the people's knowledge. That one part of the process that always messes up, but nobody knows how to fix it except for that one guy, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
Well,
those
and
sort of things that are amazing to kind of catch on to, right? Like, man, I've been here long enough to know that now.
well, I mean, it's good. I mean, and you brought up in what you were saying, the issue is, I think it always kind of comes back to measurement, right? It's easy to measure things like we have 100 people with accounts in our system, yay us, right? Or we, like we've had, this many clicks or this many saves or shares or whatever it is, and that's great. Like those are really, those quantifiable metrics that people, especially executives, like, right? What's hard about knowledge management is the really valuable stuff is hard to measure. It is, it's not impossible to measure, but it's hard to measure. It's highly qualitative, and whoever is, kind of determining what's valuable in the organization has to believe in that metric. So, you can have a qualitative metric on, actually it's not just, oh yeah, everybody in the organization shared some files this month at this number, at this rate. It's as a result of all that sharing, now we are saving money because more people are collaborating together. These two teams are now working together, and they save time and they save money by, combining what they know and reducing the amount of time they have to spend engaging each other, because they, but do you see how hard that is to measure and to connect back to the investment that you made in a person, in a team, in a tool, right? So, that's always going to be the challenge. And so there's a lot of faith and belief in, and awareness that I think a senior executive or leader who's making these decisions and, and setting the value bar, they really have to believe that, yeah, these activities lead to this, collaboration leads to this, and I believe it. And I can see it, and I'm gonna make sure that we call out when it's like that. So
I do have some comments about Rosie Network, but do you guys have any questions or comments for Dr. Jamie?
Well, no, I mean, she brings up a lot of good points, and you guys, because I work in a very niche field for technology and solving problems, and I've worked with a lot of knowledge management projects, but it's always been information, help desk, but you bring some real good points to ground whenever you start talking about institutional knowledge. And I think for me, that's the biggest pain right now, watching people leave with that knowledge that no one else has. Like, I'll just give you an example. I've talked about this before, but mainframes, the old mainframes, okay, we still use them. They're everywhere, right? But the people that know how to use them are gone, and they're not coming back. And generation me and generation anyone else, I know how to work on mainframes, so I happen to be a little different, but there's not a lot of people out there that know how to maintain those systems, and that's gone. And there's not a document that was created. There's not any backfilling of that position. That's just gone. And so
I think they'll come
how do
back
you
for
how do you
$350 an
recover from
hour.
that?
Wouldn't you say?
Well, that
I think they'll come back for $350 an hour, right? $350 an hour.
uh,
They'll come back.
well, you know what I have noticed though, like companies like they like to hire those people away and then use them, to try to build a solution to sell back to the government.
Right.
Like Vista, they use mumps. Mumps is a legacy thing that no one knows, and those
Epic
guys, they
use that.
they go from making, I don't know, we'll just say $100,000 in government to on the outside making 300,000 working part time.
That's right.
Just because that knowledge is gone. But I mean, if we would take those people and start to develop, at least a training program. We were talking about this. Train the trainer, train the new guy, teach people, what before you leave, and make that not so much a mandate, but make that, part of everyone's daily life. Hey, cross train each other, talk.
Yeah.
If we had more methods of communicating that way, we wouldn't lose that kind of stuff, but it doesn't exist.
I feel like that can exist if we are truly seeking to facilitate working environments where it's truly a culture of collaboration and not just we're a culture of collaboration. But but truly
I say it 3 times a day.
Of collaboration, truly existing.
You get a collaboration cookie today because you did what you're supposed to. You get a star.
Right.
I'll be honest, that's a great idea, but oh gosh, is it hard to get people just to get outside the box, get outside their comfort zone, because typically people just don't want to deal with other people, especially train them, unless they're told, hey, do this, right?
I think it comes from a fear-based type of energetic model, right? They're afraid if they share this information with someone, then they're going to become obsolete. And
exactly.
So with that mindset, they hold on to everything and they don't want to share, and then it becomes obsolete.
Yeah, it becomes obsolete because nobody lets the sunshine in, right? It got musty.
Right. So it really comes into a space of just a new way of thinking, and that's why I'm really big into self-care, and so within the organizations that we work in to facilitate that self-care, showing that, hey, we care about you, we care about your well-being, and in caring about your well-being, we want you to know that you're important and the information that you have to share is important. And then it's looked at in a different fashion.
Yeah.
And then people want to share it. But each of us, when we feel like no one cares about our well-being, then you don't even have the capacity to think about anything outside of getting out of there at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. If you feel that you're not valued, for example, I and not going too deep, but I work for the government. There was a time and place a few months ago where government employees were, they were not valued, less than any other human. and so a lot of people that were good, smart people, we lost the best people in that way from January to, you just say July. Some of the smartest people that I've known exited because of the fact that we were not valued, and that's not a good feeling. And so sometimes you just got to get over it and get to work. But the reality is nobody likes to be looked at less than, like they're not valued or they're not part of something important. And so how do you do that? Well, one thing is, you don't talk to your employees as less than, and you make them feel like they're part of something. And, I think that if you start to use AI in a different space, give people like, a partner that they could team up with, and then everyone has the same object, and you can start building that knowledge. But that's going to take culture change. I'll be honest with you, to have something like that, but it's something that can be achieved.
I think, if you're asking how you change the culture, you bring in Dr. Jamie, let her take care of it.
Right.
I disagree. How
You
you change the culture is everybody in the organization. I mean, we're having that right now, right? The federal government is in the midst of a really massive culture change by force in some way, right? And in a way that's good because, I think, but then to your point, I think the way that it's happening sometimes is also not healthy for, collaboration and knowledge management. You have to be at a point where it's your ability to share that is valued versus your ability to know something specialized, right? And it's those people who are like, well, I'm the only person around here that knows anything about that. So they can't get rid of me because I'm the COBOL dinosaur. To your point, Lucky, about whoever, I remember those days when I worked in IT and it was, we had COBOL systems and only one guy they brought in. He's the one who knew and he got paid the most. And, but, even that, like the reason that you had to employ the COBOL dinosaur is because the system that he was a part of did not change. It did not evolve, right? And so, as far as knowledge management goes, part of it is, yes, it's definitely culture, how you manage your culture, what kind of culture you have, but it's also like, if you train people, something has to happen more than, person A trained person B, and now person B knows this. A policy has to change, a behavior in a system needs to change, a system needs to change. Like something in the organization needs to change. And, one of my colleagues, Mark Nissen, who taught at Naval Postgraduate School, he wrote this cool book called Knowledge Dynamics a long time ago. And this idea that, because we in the military, we talk about lessons learned forever and ever. And I think I mentioned this last time about how like, it's not, they're lessons identified most of the time. Right? It's like, we learned that thing, with the exception of when people are applying those lessons downrange, right? The Army is a great example of this, where, company command a long time ago, a great knowledge management book, but, talking about how when they were, in the Middle East, how, these message boards of, hey, look out for this thing, that was real knowledge management when people saw the message board, saw the message, and applied the knowledge in the field, right? So I know I'm no longer going to try to be funny and rip down posters of Saddam Hussein because I know they're rigged with explosives, right? And that literally saved people's lives, right? But it's funny that it has to be life or death sometime in the military for people to understand that the application of knowledge and the continued behavior of that applying that knowledge is where the value is going to be. And that's how you stop bad things from happening. That's how you stop human loss. That's how, that's how you continue forward. Right. So it shouldn't have to be that extreme, that tip of the spear, in order for people to understand that when you learn something, it must be applied and something must change in the behaviors and the structure and the system in order for it to then become valuable, so that you aren't experiencing this knowledge loss when people leave, right? Like, it's okay if somebody leaves and they know something, as long as the system has changed to the point where we've applied what they know, and we are organizing ourselves that way. We're talking that way. We're acting that way now because of what we learned from that person. Putting their knowledge in a book or in a computer is not going to help.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'm gonna kind of take the whole conversation and reroute it to the AI space, because one thing that I do not hesitate to tell people about, which, I don't do fear mongering. I don't do that. AI is going to take job. AI is going to become a Terminator. I'm not for that. But one thing that I am very concerned with is that the knowledge management outsourcing to AI, that I think is a dangerous way of going, because we have to set up a boundary before we outsource the knowledge management piece to it. I'm not against it. I'm for it. I'm saying we have to be proactive rather than reactive once we realize we've outsourced way too much knowledge into the AI system. And, if you talk about from the past, present, and the future, past is past, but if you just think about it, the future perspective, the future generation, future workforce will rely on some of the knowledges, like, say, for example, COBOL, right? Important, right? But the reason they couldn't replace those hardware fast enough is because there was no hardware that they can get their hands on in order to replace that hardware at all, right? There was no other hardware that was mature enough to handle those sort of work that Cobalt has been handling for the last 40 years. So yes, there is a need for legacy system that's past, But in the future, we still haven't matured a system that can replace those old legacy systems. So some places just have legacy system because they need it, right? So where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is that if you have so much knowledge and you're collecting this knowledge and you are outsourcing it to an AI, right? AI that is trained on your past needs, not necessarily the future needs, as in the temperature tomorrow is going to be same as last 10 years ago. That does not mean there isn't a bad day coming sometime in the flood or hurricane or tornado, right? Those once in a 10-year events could happen.
Yeah.
But if AI doesn't have the knowledge about that because of last 10 years of training, it's not going to be able to detect that. But just take that example and spread it across a million different scenarios where if you don't know, you just don't know, right? So that's that process side of artificial intelligence that I think what we outsource, we need to know what it is that we're not outsourcing, right? You cannot outsource something and say, well, we've outsourced this, everybody knows that. But what didn't you outsource, right? What it is that your responsibility now, that's a bigger conversation because the AI, just like the mainframe, cannot do everything for you, right? So the transition that I'm seeing right now with knowledge management and the systems that we have in place, they're very much intimidating, but they shouldn't be because we know exactly what they cannot do, right? There's limitation into what these AIs can or cannot do, right? So these large language model, they have a lot of these massage use case. You got to massage it, you got to fix it, you got to, make it work for yourself, right? So what's being outsourced and what's not being outsourced, right? And once that person that leaves, and this is kind of goes into what we do in our workshops, is you walk somebody through this whole AI journey. They get very excited at first, and they get very bored over here, right? They get very bored because now it becomes like a child with a diaper on. You got to take care of that AI like it's a baby, right? And this sort of conversation down here gets boring, and then all of a sudden you start losing track. You start losing track of who knew what. Why did we do it in this stage? Why didn't we do it? Where does the money come from if something happens? Those succession ideas, that continuity of operations planning, right? They become so difficult to manage. If we don't think about that early on, we're just bound to have that happen, right? Where we just realize, well, somebody knew something and we need them now, but we don't know where they went, right? Happens all the time. I think if I can name that workshop correctly, it'll be EI for AI, right? Emotional intelligence for AI. You got to have enough emotional intelligence to know those people that are going to be involved in this life cycle, they are far more important than what the AI use cases are or AI output is. You know what I mean?
So what you're asking is people to not be transactional.
Whoa, big ask, right?
No.
So these AIs are really, we have to bring it back to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we look at it from economical problem, business problem. This is a societal problem. This is a huge people problem, right? We don't have enough workforce to go around. We don't have enough people to work in our workforce. Well,
Yeah.
Of course, we need AI, right, to augment that workforce that's going to be shrunk because of obvious reasons. And if we don't have the right sort of AI, that workforce is going to be miserable, far more miserable than maybe the one that we have now, right? So these AI use cases, they're shiny at first, but becomes really difficult to maintain down the road.
Yeah.
And I would say same with knowledge management. It's very great to start the diary, but keep writing that diary. Yeah, not so much, right? It's been 300 days since I've been writing this diary. I'm kind of tired now. You know what I mean? So EI for AI, I think we really need to train the people, get them to understand before we start training the AI for whatever that is, right? But I think we're doing the opposite. We're training the data models way before we train the people. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think we know that.
You know what? I think you're onto something. Because there's a fear. What I've noticed is executive leadership with AI. When it comes to models, there's a fear of moving forward. They're almost stuck because they can't make a decision to right now for whatever reason to fund for a subscription to AI, we just say, Chat GPT, right? Every option is a checkbox, and every checkbox is more money, right?
Mhm.
Or they could go open source, save money, and develop something in-house that has more long-term positive effects on your people. They learn,
That's right.
they grow, they
Yeah.
develop, and they're worth something now because they feel like they're moving forward. Where if you're just investing in something like a Microsoft, solution, or a Google solution, you're paying for it, but nobody's learning from it, and it's just another tool.
That's
And
right.
right now, AI, as much as we want to make it more than what it is, it's still simply a tool.
That's
It's
right.
like an extra arm,
Yeah.
okay? If anything, it's you've got a hand of your tool belt now, and AI is making you a little bit more, not smart, but you're able to provide information more readily. But
Yeah.
anything more than that, you know, it's not that.
Yeah.
But we want to make it into more than that, and there's some opportunities there to grow AI. But the reality is, it's not anything more than just a tool right now. So let's not make it more, and let's share that tool, and let's figure out what we can do better with it. But again, it's hard for people to step into that right now with AI because they don't want to make the effort to learn, but they don't have the money to spend because of, everyone's in the same boat right now
Yeah.
with trying to fund and spend money. No one has it. So I think there's a real fear right now with executives of AI altogether. They're stuck in a position because they don't know enough about it. They don't want to learn Excel, right? So they
Yeah.
have someone else learn Excel. Well, they don't want to learn AI, so they want someone else to learn it, but there's nobody there that can really give them direction, and so they're stuck. And I noticed that with leadership now. I can't get them to make a decision, on one way or another, on how to develop AI for the organizations.
Well, let me ask you this then, and seeing that there's not enough leaders
Yeah,
willing to take the next step and develop an AI source for the staff, right? Is it perhaps because there's not a trusted leader having a conversation with them about the best next steps to implement it within the organization? Because oftentimes that fear comes because you don't have a trusted leader coming to you saying, "Hey, here's a tool that we have.
yeah.
Let's train everyone on how to use the tool."
Yeah.
You have pockets of people that that feel that would make sense, and then you have people that just at the end it goes down to the final decision makers, and those guys are just scared. I just be honest. They don't. They're scared stuck. That's what I look at it. They're scared stuck. They're scared and they're stuck because they can't really make an informative decision on how to move forward. They feel like if they go too far one way or another, they're going to be going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, there's
honestly,
a
I
there's
don't know what the feeling is because I'm
there's
not them.
a there's a crawl, walk, and run scenario that we walk everybody in the team through, right? So let's say we do a team alignment workshop. That means we insist on having a leadership level individuals along with maybe first in line kind of day one kind of people to come in and say, sit down, this is your leader that's been here for 10 years. This is your first day. We're going to do a team alignment workshop, or we're going to talk through some of the things that you do on a daily basis. So if you have to adopt an AI from this point forward, where do you crawl and where do you run, right? At one point, you have to walk. So say, for example, you take the project management idea. To take those first 10 calls in a project that starts, can we do sentiment analysis of what's being discussed, right? Can we have these discussions about what does a project need and record all of this using an AI system that does note taking, and then that note taking does sentiment analysis on saying this is a priority that we are seeing somebody is very emotionally attached to it. So many ways we can look at it. Now, if that becomes a master document throughout the full life cycle of that project, you can always have an AI take notes against that master document, right? So think about that as a sort of like your crawl phase, because if we do that right now, but we do it manually, right? We take a lot of notes, we put it in all the different places. We put one in Microsoft Teams, one on email, and one on somebody's desk printed out on a piece of paper. There's a lot of places to go after it, but we can keep that status quo and still feed the information using an AI to the master document. And at the end of the master document, if you think about that, what does that mean? Like to crawl actually is not to take that master document and say, AI, now create me a project deliverable document, right? Well, do you want to outsource that? No, you don't want to outsource that because that might screw up a lot of things because the AI is not mature yet to take that master document and create your end of life cycle document for you, right? Your end item data package. So this sort of conversation with the leaders really, starts the conversation because they were talking about solving a lot of the project management problems. Because first thing about project management is the people, right? That's the first problem. And second one is documents, the document that goes with the project management, right? So I'll just leave it at that because if we can walk the leaders through sort of that one life cycle and say how many ways we can use AI, just sentiment analysis, phone calls, text, all this stuff that happens in an organization, all piled into one document, leaders are like, whoa, hold on a second. I got both ton of these for the last 30 years locked up somewhere. Maybe we should go use them, right? There's so many AI use cases in project management that people are not even thinking about yet, right? Because if you think about an AI, what it does is actually is a pattern matching, right? Pattern matching to say if this stops, can this one kick off, right? Find that pattern of how do I figure out if something has ended or not, right? This is a signature of something ending. This is a signature of something starting. AI can do that inside of a system, but you have to go back to that 30-year-old records and say, this is how we do it in our culture, right? This is a starting point. This is an end point. Now let an AI handle that. So a lot of possibilities. I can make a whole list of it, but I want to kind of get this last question in before we jump off. Dr. Jamie Muskoff, when you're teaching the students, right? And this is something that I don't have privileged information to because I'm of a certain age, right? So when you're teaching the students, what do you think matters to them that doesn't matter to us, right? Because I'm 40 plus at this point, right? And I'm wondering all the time because, when I was in university, I've been with somebody half my age in the classes, and I'm thinking to myself, we're not thinking at all alike, right? So you've been an instructor, you've been around, I guess, certain age range. What are some of the insights that you have found and seen that you would like to share with us, if you have any?
Sure. I mean, I think the thing is, so as a preface, at Columbia, I teach graduate students. So my students could be anywhere from just out of undergraduate to,
That's right.
beyond their 50s.
That's right. Yeah.
And, so that variance alone is interesting. But, we have, academically, we have, you have to state as a professor in your syllabus, one of two things. You are either saying, no, absolutely, you cannot use any kind of AI to do anything in my class, or yes, you can use AI with these parameters, right? Yeah. And being that I teach in an information knowledge strategy program where we talk about data analytics, data science, et cetera, I definitely have you can use AI in my class. I encourage you to, within these parameters, right? One, that you're transparent about your use of AI, right? That students, when I first started, I feel like students still had a problem being transparent about it, as if because there's still this idea that it's cheating if you use AI, right? It is cheating if you try to make AI do everything for you, and there have certainly been students in my class who have tried, right? But it's really obvious when something's fully written by AI, you just know it, right? There's certain patterns and things like that. Yeah. And everybody knows that now. So I think at first students were not wanting to be transparent about their use. I think now it's better. Like students are more inclined to say, yeah, I used AI and this is how I used it. And I think if you as an instructor contextualize it as in we're all trying to learn here how to leverage these tools to do the things we need to do. So it is a good thing if you say, yeah, I used AI to do this, and this is how I did it, because we're all trying to figure that out, right? So, we're not in a punitive environment anymore. We're in a learning mode. And I think if you can get students to be in that learning mode, to see AI as a, as a thought partner, as a thing that is going to help them with their biggest problem, which is all of our biggest problems, which is time, right? We don't have time to do everything that we need to do. AI can be a huge time saver for everybody. But that takes you to that point where then you need to apply your creativity and your thought. And I think students are okay with that. Like I think I see less and less students who are just like, well, I'm going to use AI because I want to cut my corners, and because they know that that's like they need to be taught, and it needs to be reinforced that their value is their own ingenuity and their own creativity, right? Like the AI will only take you so far, right? So I think that, and I think students are getting that no matter what age, and I did want to say one more thing before you close, is that it's just striking me all the time. Like I always have, I like to think in metaphors, and I wondered this whole conversation, like when they invented the hammer, like were people freaking out about like, well, this hammer is only supposed to be used for nails. What if somebody smacks someone over the head with it, and has someone? Absolutely, right? But there's a reason we don't have a society full of people running around smashing people in the head with hammers, right? In the same way, in the same way we have morals, values, ideals, AI will also fit in that category. It's scary because of how fast it does things. I think that's probably it. You can't, it's like the mega hammer of mega hammers in a way. But there's still the reality that as long as humans are in control, and we very much should be, and that's a choice we need to make, right? You're not going to see AI being used to hit people over the head. You're going to see it used in really powerful, creative, and useful ways that are, in my opinion, capable of taking human beings out of this very industrial revolution mentality of work, work, work. Your value is how hard you work and where you work, into your value is your ability to Masako's point, be well, be alive, live your life, which hopefully you get 100 years of, and that AI helps you free up your time so that you are healthy and you are able to make contributions to humanity that are much greater than formatting an Excel spreadsheet, right? So I have faith in that. I really do think, but that's our choice as human beings. Like we have to choose that. So, and I have faith in the students that I have that's how they see AI as well. So I'm hopeful about it.
Yeah, it's definitely an advantage, right? No matter how we put it, it's like two sides of the coin, right? You cannot have the same feelings about both sides. So I guess it's always that, human nature, flight or fight, right? Sort of a mentality where I really want to get comfortable, but I don't want to get lazy, right? I still want to be able to maintain that fight posture, even though I'm fearful, right? So fear creates that distance, but curiosity brings you a little bit closer, right? So the curiosity that we have with AI right now, it's driving us to a point where we can imagine future much better than our ancestors ever could have, right? Because now we're seeing how we're going to structure this data, use the hardware, and put that to work, right? If we're putting that to work, that means our future is actually going to be better than the way it is right now. Because to Masako's point, we're just living, not living well, right? We're just living, But now we have this opportunity to say, I can guarantee no matter what happens on this side of the spectrum, we're going to be better off, right? So that to me is a good positive sign, right? I love your hammer example, because back in 1900, TNT, the Alfred Nobel's invention, the TNT, was the biggest threat to the humanity, right? Nobody has at that point said, oh man, there's this thing going to come up better than TNT. They didn't say that, because at that point they said, we don't want to start a war, because if we do, TNTs are going to, the worst thing that could ever happen to humanity. And then we had World War I and World War II.
And then Oppenheimer.
Right.
There you go.
So, but in that fashion, if we think about it, everything had that sequence where we always said nothing's going to be better than that, right? But with AI, we're talking about quantum computing. With quantum computing, we're talking about living in a world that we won't even need hardware anymore, right? It'll be just simple communication that will happen behind the scene, that it'll be a calm technology or silent AI technology that will take over. So yeah, I don't see any future here for me to say, like, only way that AI can screw up is if we let the humans screw it up for us, right? The end users can screw it up. End user threat will never go away. End users will always be the threat. They have been, they will be. There's just no going about it. But of course, we've lived through it, right? It's not like, we stopped living because of this thing called Hammer, right? I still go outside and hang out, and people with Hammer do what they do. You know what I mean? So Jamie, really, really want to thank you so much for, I know you're having your time with your grandkid, and then you stepped away to be with us. That's an honor,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
We're
cannot.
grateful for you and your time, Jamie. Thank you for
Thank you so
sharing it
much.
with us.
For that.
I'm grateful for the forum and the discussion because it is such a great topic. And and I hope that people become less afraid of it. I mean,
Hmm.
this is probably, my husband's a nuclear submariner, so he believes a believer in nuclear power, as am I, right? But that is another one of those things, right? That people still to this day are deathly afraid of. And
Hmm.
to the extent of what it can do, absolutely, if handled incorrectly, absolutely that can cause fear. But we've gone so long without nuclear incident, right? And it's because we
Yeah.
as humans have the ability to control that, and in the same exact way, we have the ability to control what AI does for us and where it does it, right? You're not going to see AI making decisions about turning keys on submarines, and launching missiles
Ooh.
anytime soon, right? That's not going to happen. Only if we as human beings, as a society, do not allow it to happen, right? So I just think we need to continue to put the people into the equation here. And when we do, I think, there's less to be afraid of and more to be excited about.
Yay, that's a good word.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we could finish on that, because anything more than that, we're not doing it justice. So I think you hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
You hit it right on the head.
With the hammer.
Yeah, with the hammer. Yeah.
Well, guys, any last departing thoughts, please do share. Masako, Lucky, and Dr. Jamie. We would love to have you back again. That's my last thought. Masako, any departing thoughts?
Yeah, for everyone that's listening and watching us tonight about AI and knowledge management, we want you to just have a curiosity to be great and utilize what we have at our fingertips to find out what it is exactly that you want to do, because we have the tools to help you get there. There's nothing off limits, and just stay pure in heart.
Wow. Hard to follow those up. You guys are making it really tough. So I'm going to just say, ay, 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 ay. I'm done. I'm done. Hey, another night done, and great conversation. And thank you, Jamie, again for coming on and, blessing us with your time, and really trying to clear up the mystique of AI.
That's right.
Let's put it that way.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie, any last departing thoughts on that?
No, thanks. Go play with those little ones that I hear all in the back, and I'll go play with mine.
Good idea.
Hey, Ashley, look behind you. Ashley, look behind you.
He's gonna say ay 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 with us.
Yeah, he's been playing in your plant the whole time we've been talking. It's been great.
That's awesome.
Ay 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 is out.
Thank you. Thank you
guys.
so
Have a good
much.
night.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Hey, in school, you want to say, ay, 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 ay. No.